Hi guys, Kevin Ellis Jr. here with the Apex Racing Academy with this tutorial for Montreal and the Porsche GT3 Cup. So just to start you guys off, as you come down the front straight here, keep it just to the left hand side here as you come across the start finish line. This will help straighten out this braking zone that you're coming into, because you don't really want to be coming in this tight and then trying to brake round this radius. So make sure that you're able to line up your trajectory so that you're, as you can see here, as we're braking, we're in line with this white line. You can see just as we come around, it's just making life a little bit easier for us, just to allow us to brake in a straight line so that we can open out the first left as much as possible. So in terms of your brake marker, right as soon here as the grass ends at the bit of runoff here, start getting onto the brakes nice and patient to threshold, and you can see keeping it to the white line down into third gear as we bring it in here. And then what I'd done on this specific lap was I tried throttling up. You can see here just giving it a big jump in throttle just to try and clear the downslope on the curb here. We didn't quite manage to clear it, so unfortunately just a little bit of time lost there. But you can see here we just catch the lip of it just on landing, which obviously isn't ideal. So just braking just in for the right, down into first gear. And you essentially want to get up over the curb on the inside while trail braking. You can see as soon as you come off the curb, you want to start feeding some throttle in. You can see we've got a lot of lock in here, just over 180 degrees actually, as we're trailing brake, just trying to keep some weight over the front end here, just to keep the nose rotating. Then as it drops off the curb, start to apply the throttle, unwind the wheel, and short shift the second on the way up, and then track it out to the curb on the outside. And towards turn 3 then. You can see on the track here all these black marks. Essentially, I'm braking as I come up to them, but you can also use this 2 on the left hand side if you prefer. Like as you pass the 2, start braking. But from inside the car at full speed, it looks like as soon as I'm coming to these black marks, I'm braking. And you can see we have quite a big amount of brake initially here, but then we drop it out quite quickly, just in third gear through here. And what you want to do through this chicane is actually take it a little bit wider than you feel. You don't want to be over this stuff on the inside. So what we can do is if we bring the camera down just a little bit, you can see the tyre on the right hand side here. We're not actually going completely over it. We're keeping just a bit of the tyre on this lip. You can see we're just this corner here on the lip, and that's to prevent it from doing what it done in turn 1, where it drops into this section and then bounces on the way up. So we're just keeping the right rear just on the very, very lip of this curb all the way around, and that's about as perfect as you can probably get it right there. It's just trying to keep the right hand tyre on this part of the curb here. This will in turn allow you to get to full throttle between the 2 corners. You can see just getting to full throttle and then lifting across the left, and honestly it's so on edge coming out of this corner that you're probably going to find yourself hitting the wall a couple of times. It's going to happen ultimately, but you do need to try and get across the lip on the right to allow you to get to full throttle, and then just lift as you jump across the grass, and then back to full throttle again as you bring it out towards the wall. Then through turn 5, you can see we're just clipping the grass on the outside to help open it up, and you want to try and keep as much throttle in as possible. This will keep the diff engaged, keep the car rotating. As soon as you lift off, it's going to cause understeer, so you can see the lowest that we're really dropping to is around 50%. But then we're straight back up again, applying throttle in just to keep it rotating. And then, similar to the previous chicane, these black marks here, rough of the brake mark, you can see we're already beginning to apply some brake just before these black marks on the track. Drive this in as deep as you can into second gear, right out to the wall on the outside as well. This will allow you to open up this whole section, because this whole chicane up here is really, really tight. And there's only really one quick way through here that I've found. So right out to the wall, down to second, and then similar to the previous chicane, you don't really want to go over this lip on the inside here. You can see we're just a little bit wide, but it's okay because we're getting back to throttle just before the apex to try and carry the speed out. So you don't really want to drop into this bit on the inside here either. You want to try and keep it to the right hand side or to the outside of this lip. And as we bring it in, we're just applying some throttle just to get it to rotate. Try and keep it as tight to the left hand side as we can. Then as we come through the right, short shifting into third, and then up over the curb on the inside. Nice and patient on the throttle, then as it drops off the curb you can see it settle, and then we just slowly, progressively add the throttle in, as the corner begins to open out. If you try and get back to full throttle here, or even here especially, it's just going to get loose and it's going to spit you off into this wall on the outside, so you do need to be nice and patient on the throttle input. Just obviously be aware the car's very loose, there's barely any downforce, and the car's obviously got a pretty active diff on the exit, so just be aware of that. So into the next section, as we come past the 3, we're starting to brake, but when I'm actually inside the car, I'm more looking at here, but you can see we're already braking pretty early. But essentially I want to make sure that I'm at threshold by the time I get to here, so you can see we're just applying brake just after the 3, and then as we come in here, if you watch the brake input, come to the bit of grass at threshold, just holding that threshold, just adding another couple little percent in here, and we're just trying to open up this chicane as best as we can. You can see I've got my left hand wheels just to the left of the white line, and then bringing it just in, just as the grass comes up, and into here I believe we're in 3rd gear. Yeah, I just keep it in 3rd gear for this. Now if you go too far over this curb on the right, you will get a slowdown. So you can see this is about as far as you can go over this curb on the right, and you want to try and take as much as this as you can to help open up the left. So as we come through the right, again we're keeping it in 3rd, and then right before you get to the white curb, you can see it's just giving it a little bit of throttle. That's just to move the weight to the back, help the curb behaviour, and also get a little bit of acceleration out of there as well to carry the speed through. Then through the left, you want to take as much as you can off this on the left hand side, so that you're landing in the escape road. You essentially want to use as much of this as you can. If we zoom this in just a little bit, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about here. You can see that we're essentially bringing this in and landing in the escape road, and then just getting back onto the track as the grass comes up here. So this is essentially your goal for. Oh, apologies for that. That's essentially your goal for that chicane, is to try and jump over the curb as best as you can, so that you avoid the pogo and also get better drive off, because obviously once you land in this part of the tarmac, you can really start feeding the throttle, and you can see we've already got 75-80%. And then on the exit, we're beginning to progressively apply it. Just be nice and patient with the throttle, because again, if you try and get back to full throttle here as the car is still sort of settling, oscillating a little bit, it's going to spit you off into that outside wall, especially in qualifying as well. Just beware, if you do 0x a wall, it will invalidate your lap time, so just be careful of that. And then into the hairpin, there's plenty of different ways to take this. You can drive this in really deep and get the cut back. You can drive it in quite slow and quite shallow, but take a tighter line and overall shorter distance. Here I went for the send it as hard as I could and hang on technique. So essentially, as we come past this, the end of the grass here, we start applying the brake and just trying to make sure that we're near enough at threshold by the time we pass this. Probably more realistically, we're only reaching threshold around the 2. You can see we're on threshold here, and into here I started getting some inside rear locking. So just be careful of that as you come into here. Just be nice and patient with your downshifts as well. It should help with the little automatic throttle blips that the sim gives with this car's gearbox. It should try and prevent the wheel hop as much as possible. You can see the right rear just beginning to under rotate here. You can see just from the decals on there. We're down into 1st gear for this corner. You can see we're quite wide on entry. We're not all the way over the curb on the inside. We're going to bring it in late, so we're quite wide at apex, and then we're feeding the throttle in, and then you can see we're just going to brush the white line. There's no real need to use the curb on exit, it might unsettle the car. So you can see we're just trailing off the brake, nice and slow on the downshifts. Miss the 1st apex, but then apply some throttle with a lot of steer and lock in, pull it back, and straight line the exit as best we can. Now into the final chicane, which actually isn't as much of an issue as I was expecting it to be. In previous seasons it's been really difficult to get through here quite clean, but it seems that the car's quite handy through here now. So essentially, as we're coming past the 3, again you can see we're braking just as we come past the footbridge here. Essentially just reaching threshold at the 3 board, down into 3rd gear, and then as you come into here you want to take as much off the right as you can. Any more than this, there is a slowdown here, which is really frustrating. It'd be ideal if you could take more of this. The chicane would actually be even nicer. But it's just a case of trying to experiment with how much of the right you can take, because how much you take here determines how good you can be through here into the start-finish line. And obviously if you're poor through here, there's a good chance you're going to get overtaken. So essentially as you come in, we're just, as I say, in 3rd gear, just trying to tip it into the corner, aggressive up over the right, and you can see we're just picking up the throttle as well just before we get to that curb, just to move the weight to the back, get a little bit of a run, keep the speed up. and then by cutting a lot off the right, you're then going to open up the left. So you can see we cut the right, and then you just want to skim the left ever so slightly. See, we got actually a decent chunk of the left there. Any more than this, really, and you're going to run into issues. I mean, ideally, you'd only just skim this as well, and you wouldn't quite have as much air time as this. So essentially, you want to take a lot off the right, not as much off the left. You can drive over the top of this left curb, and the car actually handles it okay, but there's a slowdown penalty, which unfortunately ruins that. Kind of similar to the right-hander as well. So yeah, essentially, a little bit of throttle before the right, throttle up between the right and the left, just to distribute the weight to the back. Start increasing your speed as well. Then a little lift as we come over the curb, maintaining it at 118 kph. You can see 118, hit the curb, left, still at 118, and then as we land, start feeding the throttle in, car's planted, out to the wall, and with that to the start-finish line. So with that, guys, that's a lap of Montreal. Hopefully you found this useful. As always, any kind of questions, feel free to ask in the Apex Racing Academy Discord. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. But with that, guys, the best of luck this week, and we'll see you next week.